You're 3,000 meters below the ocean surface. That's almost 2 miles down. The sun gave up trying to reach you about an hour ago. And something massive is hunting. The water around you isn't just dark. It's basically a giant crushing machine. The pressure here would turn your bones into toothpicks. We're talking about 10 atmospheres pressing down on every square inch of you. The water's cold enough to stop your heart in minutes. And somewhere in this nightmare zone, a sperm whale just picked up movement. Its heart rate drops. At the surface, it was beating 60 times a minute. Now, 10. The whale is basically shutting down everything it doesn't absolutely need right now. All the oxygen is getting redirected to its brain and muscles. Oh, and by the way, it's been holding its breath for 40 minutes. Then it fires. A sound so loud it would blow out your eardrums. Rapid clicks hammering through the darkness like someone firing a machine gun underwater. Each click carries more acoustic power than a jet engine at full blast. The whale is scanning, mapping, building a 3D image in its head of something absolutely enormous moving below. And then the echo bounces back. Something with arms longer than a school bus. A body covered in suckers with razor-sharp hooks around them. The biggest invertebrate on the entire planet. A giant squid. Welcome to the Twilight Zone. For pretty much every animal on Earth, life happens where there's light. But sperm whales? They live in a world almost nothing else ever enters. A vertical universe that stretches for miles beneath the surface, where the pressure crushes metal submarines and sunlight literally doesn't exist. Here's what makes sperm whales so weird. It's not just that they're huge. It's not just that their brains are massive. It's how little we actually know about them. Think about it. These animals are as big as airplanes, and they're basically invisible. They spend over 70% of their lives in a zone humans can't reach, a place so deep our submarines can barely survive there for a few minutes. And we've witnessed almost none of it. We study lions, tigers, and sharks because we can watch them. But sperm whales? We study shadows, echoes, scars on their bodies. They're the closest thing Earth has to actual sea monsters. Not because they're scary, because they're unknown. We don't even understand their daily routines. We still have no idea how they decide when to dive, how long they actually sleep, how they navigate across entire oceans. Sometimes scientists watch entire groups of sperm whales just floating vertically in the water, completely still, like a forest of giant gray pillars drifting through the ocean, sleeping upright. Nobody knows why. Then there's how they talk to each other. Sperm whales communicate using patterns of clicks called codas. These patterns are so complex that some scientists think they might be regional dialects, or possibly the early structure of an actual language. Let that sink in. An animal with a brain 6 times bigger than yours, living in a world you've never seen, speaking in a code we still don't understand. Every once in a while, the deep ocean gives us a glimpse of what's down there, and when it does, it changes everything. Divers have met sperm whales in moments that shouldn't be possible. You're hanging there in the open water, weightless, totally vulnerable, and then something massive starts moving toward you through the blue. The clicks start, softer than you'd expect, deliberate. The whale is scanning you from the inside out, your lungs, your ribs, your heartbeat, building a complete 3D image of what you are. And then it just hovers there, watching. Sometimes they tilt their bodies to get a better read on the echoes. Sometimes they circle slowly, clicking in patterns that sound almost like conversation. And in rare moments that leave people completely shaken, they respond. These aren't coincidences. These are interactions. Because here's the part that breaks your brain. These animals have brains 6 times larger than ours. They have the same neural structures we link to compassion, love, and language in humans. And they've had them for 15 million years longer than we have. They might be speaking one of the most sophisticated languages on Earth. And despite Everything we've done to them, centuries of hunting them, nearly driving them extinct when we enter their world defenseless and curious, they don't run away. They don't attack. They turn around. They try to understand us. Giants with the power to kill, choosing instead to communicate, to connect. We hunted them to the edge of extinction. And still, they let us close enough to realize we're dealing with an intelligence we've barely begun to understand. A mind reaching out to meet ours. For centuries, humans only knew sperm whales from what we could see at the surface. And everything about them felt wrong. Sailors in the 1700s called them sea devils, leviathans. Some thought they were the kraken from the old stories, rising from the deep to drag ships underwater. Because imagine you're standing on the deck of a wooden ship in the middle of the Atlantic, and a 50-foot-long head comes up out of the fog, breathing out a cloud of mist that smells like death. You're not thinking, oh, it's a mammal. You're thinking, I'm about to die. The sounds didn't help either. Ships would pass through the open ocean and hear it. Loud, rhythmic knocking coming from below the hull, like something massive was hammering on the ship from underneath. Crews thought they were being stalked. Some believed it was ghosts. Others thought the ship was breaking apart. It was sperm whales talking to each other. And then there were the scars. When whalers finally started killing these animals in large numbers, they found something that terrified them. Circular marks covering the whales' heads and bodies. Some almost a foot across. Ringed with smaller cuts that looked like teeth marks. Suction cup scars. If the whales looked like this, what were they fighting? The myth of the giant squid wasn't born from imagination. It was born from evidence carved into living flesh. But the fear became very real in 1820. A whaling ship called the Essex was rammed by a sperm whale in the middle of the Pacific. Not by accident, on purpose. The whale hit the ship twice, smashed a hole in it, sank it. The crew spent months drifting in lifeboats. Some of them resorted to cannibalism to survive. The survivors told stories of a whale that seemed aware, angry, like it was getting revenge. Herman Melville heard those stories, and 30 years later, he wrote Moby Dick. The white whale wasn't fiction. It was fear given a name. Fear of something massive and powerful that lived in a world we couldn't enter but that could reach up and destroy us anyway. In the 1700s, sperm whales became the most valuable animals on Earth. Not because of what they were, because of what they carried. Inside that massive square head, packed into an organ called the spermaceti, was oil. Clear, smooth oil unlike anything else in nature. It didn't smoke when you burned it. It didn't freeze in winter. It lubricated machinery better than anything humans had ever found. And it lit lamps brighter and cleaner than any other fuel. Spermaceti oil powered the Industrial Revolution. It lit entire cities. It kept factory machines running. It was liquid gold. And so the hunt began. Whaling ships left ports in New England and traveled across entire oceans. For months, sometimes years. Crews scanning the horizon every single day, looking for that telltale spray of water. The moment they spotted one, the chase started. Small boats launched, harpoons ready, rowing toward animals the size of buses. Whales thrashing in pain, the ocean turning red, their breath turning from water spray to blood spray. And the sounds they made, low, mournful calls that carried for miles underwater, panic sounds, distress calls to the rest of the pod. Other whales heard them, and they learned. Sperm whale pods started running at the sight of ships. Mothers positioned themselves between the boats and their babies. Some fought back, smashing boats with their tails, dragging crews underwater. But they couldn't fight harpoons. They couldn't outrun ships with sails and later steam engines. Quick question. We hunted them for centuries, and they still don't attack us. Would you be that forgiving? Hit like if you wouldn't. By the mid-1800s, the oceans were full of whaling fleets. American ships, British, Dutch, Japanese. all hunting the same animal, driving populations toward collapse. Some areas that once had hundreds of whales saw their numbers drop to single digits. But sperm whales recover slowly. Females don't have babies until they're 9 years old. Pregnancies last 15 months. A single calf every 5 to 7 years. You can't sustain a population that reproduces that slowly when you're killing thousands every year. By the early 1900s, sperm whale populations had crashed. Some estimates say we killed over 1 million of them, maybe more. Entire regional populations were wiped out. Genetic diversity collapsed. And then finally, in 1986, a global ban on whaling went into effect. Too late for many, but just in time for some. Sperm whale numbers have slowly recovered. Not to what they were, nothing close, but enough that they're no longer about to go completely extinct. They survived. Barely. We nearly erased them from the planet, but we never understood them. To understand who sperm whales really are, we have to go back to the deep. Here's the thing about diving 3,000 meters below the surface. The pressure at that depth is roughly 300 times what we experience at sea level. Enough to crush a car into a cube. Enough to implode a submarine if it's not built perfectly. And yet sperm whales do this dozens of times a day, holding their breath for over an hour, then casually swimming back to the surface like it's nothing. They shouldn't exist, but they do. And every part of their body is a solution to a problem that would kill anything else. Start with the head. That massive square battering ram isn't just for show. It's a biological sonar cannon. Inside is an organ filled with up to a ton of waxy oil. Sound starts deep in the whale's nasal passages, travels through this oil which focuses it like a lens, then fires forward in a directional beam. The result? Clicks registering at 230 decibels. For context, a jet engine at full blast is 140 decibels. We're talking about sound energy thousands of times more intense. So loud that divers have reported feeling the clicks pass through their chest like getting punched. Now look at the body. Sperm whales don't just hold their breath. They actively collapse their lungs during the dive. This prevents nitrogen from dissolving into their blood, the same thing that gives human divers the bends. Their ribs are flexible. They bend inward under pressure instead of snapping. Their blood carries way more hemoglobin than ours, binding oxygen more efficiently. And their muscles? Packed with a protein called myoglobin that stores oxygen directly in the tissue. So much of it that their flesh is almost black. When the whale dives, it's not just relying on the air in its lungs. It's running on oxygen stored in every muscle fiber in its body. The heart itself is a masterpiece. At the surface, 60 beats per minute. During a dive, 10. The whale is basically putting itself into a controlled near shutdown, redirecting blood only to the brain and critical muscles. Everything else goes dormant. And then there's the brain. 6 times larger than ours. The largest brain on Earth. Not necessarily the smartest, intelligence doesn't scale directly with size, but structured in ways we're only beginning to understand. Massive regions devoted to processing sound, neural pathways designed for 3D spatial mapping in complete darkness. This isn't just an animal that adapted to the deep. This is an animal that rewrote the rules of what's biologically possible. But surviving the deep requires more than just engineering. It requires intelligence. Sperm whales don't just click for hunting. They click to talk. The patterns are called codas, rhythmic sequences of clicks that sound almost like Morse code. Each pattern distinct, each one repeated, each one recognized by other whales across miles of ocean. And here's where it gets weird. Different clans have different dialects. Whales in the Caribbean don't click the same way as whales off the coast of Japan. Pods that travel together develop shared clicking patterns, signature sequences that identify them to other groups. It's not instinct, it's learned. Calves don't instinctively know their clan's coda. They're taught. by listening, by mimicking, by practicing until they get it right. This is culture in the true sense of the word. But it goes deeper. Some scientists believe sperm whale codas may have syntax, structural rules that allow them to combine clicks in meaningful ways, like words forming sentences. If true, it would mean sperm whales aren't just communicating, they're speaking. In 2021, researchers launched something called the Earth Species Project, using AI to analyze thousands of hours of recorded whale clicks. The goal? Decode the language, find patterns humans can't detect, understand what they're actually saying. We're not there yet, but early results suggest the complexity is staggering, far beyond what we see in dolphins or other whales. Some researchers think sperm whale communication might be more sophisticated than human language, not in content, but in structure. A single sperm whale influences life across an entire ocean in ways we didn't understand until recently. Sperm whales don't just live in the deep. They live between worlds, diving thousands of meters to hunt, then rising back to the surface to breathe, rest, hang out, and take care of their babies. They travel in tight-knit family groups led by older females, the matriarchs, who guide the pod across entire ocean basins. These migrations aren't random wandering. They're inheritance. Routes passed down from grandmother to calf. Lines carved through the ocean that trace feeding grounds, warm water nurseries, and ancient safe zones where calves were once raised before the age of ships and engines. And with every dive they make and every breath they take at the surface, they change the ocean around them. Here's something nobody expected. Sperm whales fertilize the sea. When they rise from the deep, they bring nutrients, especially iron, from waters where sunlight never reaches up to the surface where plankton live. And plankton are the foundation of everything, the base of the food chain, the producers of half the oxygen on Earth. One whale can stimulate as much carbon capture as thousands of trees. A pod of whales can influence climate cycles. An entire population, planet-level consequences. They don't just survive in the ocean, they help build it. And even in death, their work continues. A whale fall when a dead whale sinks to the seafloor creates a city in the dark. A single whale can feed an entire deep-sea ecosystem for 100 years. Crabs, eels, worms, sharks. Thousands of animals survive because a giant sank into the abyss. It's one of the most dramatic transfers of energy in nature. Life becoming life, death becoming an entire world. This is why sperm whales are unlike any other whale. Baleen whales filter feed. Orcas hunt intelligently. But sperm whales? They dive deeper, stay longer, communicate more complexly, form richer family structures, and shape the ocean in ways no other species does. They are engineers, matriarchs, hunters, teachers, navigators, and the living memory of the sea. These animals survived our worst. They're still here, still diving into the darkness, still speaking in codes we're only beginning to crack, still turning around when we show up in their world, choosing to understand us instead of destroy us. That's not just survival. That's intelligence. That's compassion. That's something we're still trying to wrap our heads around.